Okay, I gotta grab my Twitch chat still. Just do that in the window. Neat. Very cool. This is the Sausage Sports Club weekly update. I do this every week for a few reasons. One, I think it's useful for students and new developers to have a resource to see how a commercial game is made, what goes on week to week, how a developer thinks about the game, the decisions they make, and also like specific development techniques and stuff like that I show on this stream. Two is the obvious marketing thing of if I talk about the game more, then more people will hear about it, and that's obviously a good thing for selling a commercial game. Three is a selfish reason of keeping a record of my design and development process so that in the future I can come back and look at what I made, like why I made design decisions as I was going, how I was feeling about it across the project, that kind of thing. And then the last reason is sometimes people will come into chat, see that I'm doing something weird and tell me about it, and then I get better at making games, and that's always good also. So that's why I do it. Welcome, Dobrog. How's it going? So this week, the game is, I would say, done. It's in Lotcheck again. I got back on, what was it, on Thursday maybe, and saw or maybe Wednesday, that Lotcheck had failed, and then I had a list of failures, and it was really like minor stuff that's not the game being broken necessarily, but more like kind of rare issues that users might find if they were like doing really weird things. I have a list here. It's all minor stuff. It's all already fixed, and I'm already ready for a resubmission. I'm just waiting for the weekend to end so that somebody at Nintendo can like check a box to let me resubmit. The things that were wrong were in the input rebind menu, which I'll open just because it's relevant to this topic. I have a menu in the game where you can rebind all your controls to whatever you want. It's an accessibility feature, and it's kind of the lowest, I shouldn't say the lowest hanging fruit, but it's like, to me, it's the most important accessibility feature that kind of goes the farthest. So it's this. You can just rebind any of the buttons to do whatever you want. And the Switch version has this too. But on Switch, some of the names of these buttons were kind of weird. Like on the Switch, I don't know if I have a Joy-Con at hand. I don't. Anyway, on the Switch, there's like directional buttons on the left Joy-Con and like A, B, X, Y on the right Joy-Con. And the directional buttons have like specific terminology names that you're supposed to use everywhere, which is just up, down, left, right. And I was using directional up, directional left, directional right, whatever. Instead of that, just to clarify that it's not the left stick up, whatever, which might be what you expect as the default. And so that's apparently wrong. I was also using the word plus and minus for the plus and minus buttons instead of the, the symbol plus, symbol minus. So that was super little stuff. I probably could have, when you're in the cert process, you can like appeal basically anything they say is a failure. You can appeal it and say either I'm never gonna fix this, or you can say I never want to fix this, or I want to fix it but after launch, like in a patch or something. And then they'll listen to your appeal and they'll either say yes or no. That might be the kind of thing I could get appealed, but since there's other stuff, I wanted to like actually fix stuff. Rebind menu wasn't clear when you enter with a single Joy-Con, either left or right. So if I go into this menu on the Switch, it would still say all of the same stuff that it would if I was using a dual set of Joy-Cons. So whereas on a right Joy-Con, basically the difference is instead of A being jump and X being kick, now because your controller is rotated, like the buttons change. but I wasn't reflecting that change on this menu, so it was super confusing. Also, the swing X and swing Y on a single Joy-Con is gyroscope input, which I can't, there's no other option for it on a single Joy-Con, so I don't want players to be able to rebind that, so I don't let them rebind it there. So I completely removed those options there. So basically I just hadn't considered the flow of if a player switched to a single Joy-Con and then went to this menu, like, I didn't handle that case at all, so I needed to fix that. Also, if you were on that menu and were in handheld mode and then pulled your controllers off and switched to dual mode, the menu just broke, just because of the way that I was... basically, when somebody enters the settings menu, I take whatever input device entered that menu. That's the one that we like check for rebinds and check to see if you hit the back button or the confirm button, that kind of thing. And if you switch from handheld to dual Joy-Con, like you pull them out and then you still have the dual controller, that's considered by my system a separate input device, which is totally reasonable, but this menu like didn't account for that. So what I do now is if you detach an input device, then we just close this menu and go back so that you have to enter it with, you know, with an active input device. Overall, yeah, it's getting pretty close. Not this month, but I'm hoping pretty soon after that. So I'm just trying to get everything squared away, like be ready to officially launch when I want to, and then after that, then be able to, you know, announce and like make final plans. That's where I'm at right now. So that was a thing. There's also documentation issues on their end. Like I go through like web forms and fill out a bunch of things about what the game does, and some of it's I don't really want to go into it because it's probably like NDA covered stuff, but it's just some of the web form stuff. I like mistakenly put the wrong value, misunderstanding like what they consider certain fields. So that's that. Most of my time this week has been spent doing marketing stuff, really. I mentioned last week I was starting to do trailer planning. I did a little bit of this that week, just like laying out like, here are the things that I want to show off about the game that are important to show in the trailer. And then now I can start kind of thinking about what are the shots that I actually need to compose, what custom code do I need to write to set up a shot. If you've seen the Switch announce trailer, there are a lot of custom shots in that, like when a player like runs and kicks the crab and the crab goes in the water, the camera's like zoomed in on the crab, and a player, like, I didn't control the character that like ran over and kicked the crab. That was all like kind of a scripted sequence, but I don't use timeline for any of that because I would have to, it was easier to write code that interfaced directly with my system instead of writing like a timeline playable to control my characters. So I assume for this final trailer I'll also need to do some of that, like a few custom scripts just to like puppeteer around stuff, or puppeteer the camera. So that's the stage that's at, where I'm planning shots, planning what kind of code I need to write to get the shots I want. And of course this is also a first draft. I hope to do a few drafts. I know every time I get to the editing step of a trailer, I need to reshoot footage, either because there's like a visible bug in the scene, or this is embarrassing, but the actual trailer, the Switch announce trailer, in the bottom right has like development build or something like that. Like it has text that Unity puts into a build in the bottom right corner, and I didn't notice until like it was after the trailer was already completely like cut and I was getting ready to export. I noticed that, and it was just like, at that point it had been too late. Yeah, and I don't think players expect a camera in a trailer to like exactly match what the camera can do in the game. they know that you're trying to make dramatic shots to cut a trailer. So I'm not worried about that. Next, I wrote a ton of stuff this week, just trying to compile everything I learned for making the game, and this ended up being like really cathartic to work on, just because it was the best way for me to do it was kind of go from the start of the project and just remember as much as I could that happened and take notes as I went about that, and then kind of focusing on specific parts as well, or specific disciplines, I guess. So I looked at like a history of the project, and then I looked at like each discipline, and basically what I'm imagining will happen is I'll get like a crazy amount of text. I already have like 8,000 words, and there's gonna be even more than that. And I'll have like this ridiculous amount of words. Obviously I don't want to just like publish that as an article because nobody will read it and it wouldn't really be useful just as like a brain dump. I'm not going to turn it into a book or something like that. So I need to cut out parts that aren't useful, aren't interesting, are more just like me like helping myself remember by writing it out. Really focus it down into like the useful meat stuff, and what I want to do is split it into different articles based on the topic. So like I would do a programming article, here's all the programming stuff I learned. So if you're a programmer, you would read that, but if you're not, then it wouldn't be interesting to you probably. There would be an art one, there would be a design one, there will be, I should say. And I'm looking at it in my left window here. Yeah, there's an art one. I think I might combine like business development and production stuff, just because those are somewhat more related, and I don't have that much to say actually on production because my like ability to schedule a project was terrible, and the stuff I do have to say is mostly like from a place of these are the lessons I learned, not from a place of authority at all. Whereas like as a programmer, I feel like I have some authority to say like this is what I did well, this is what I did poorly. With production, it's more like I didn't know anything when I started, here's everything I learned. I don't know if this is like true for every project, but these are all the like pitfalls I hit and like what I came out of it, and coming out of it with more context. So I don't know if I would want to write a whole article about just like how I severely fucked up my schedule continuously over the course of the whole project. And then biz dev is kind of the same. Like I feel like I've learned a ton over the project about stuff, but to some extent more of that is like it's not subjective as much. Like I talk about like here are tools I use, here's how I use them, they were helpful to inform me, even, and I'll also give the disclaimer of like this is what worked for me, it might not work for you, all advice is subjective, whatever. So that's why I think those things fit together. Yeah, totally. It's really helpful for like reinforcing it as something I'll take forward instead of something that in the moment I needed it, I learned and like realized, but kind of went away. So just revisiting and thinking about it has been super valuable already. I also want to add like tons of images and GIFs and stuff, because if you just read this, it's, especially if you don't have context of what the game is, or maybe you've seen the game but haven't played it and don't understand, like if I talk for 2 pages or whatever about like lessons I learned making the UI, but you've never seen any of the UI in the game, it's going to be really like hard to follow and not that useful. So I gotta get that. I also want to do, and this will be pretty close to launch or maybe after launch, a too long didn't read version for Imgur and Reddit, where it's mostly just like mostly GIFs and images, and then bits of like easily digestible information, trying to really just like get at the nuggets of it instead of this crazy long form thing. Thanks, Dobrog. Haha. I hope he's okay. Hope your son's okay. So that's some of the marketing stuff. I've also been thinking about this week Twitch integration stuff. Somebody mentioned it. DigiFudge mentioned it last week in stream, during the stream, and I kind of was like, oh yeah, that would be nice. Like, I don't know if there's really time, and to some extent, I had kind of discarded Twitch as a useful marketing platform for Sausage specifically. Like, I'm sure it's really useful for a lot of games, but because Sausage is local multiplayer only, a lot of Twitch streamers just like are interested in the game and then ask me if it's online, and when I say no, their response is like, oh, okay, I can't play it, like, keep in touch, let me know when you add online or whatever, even though I'm not planning to do that. And I say that to them. So to me, that kind of like limited how useful it was for Twitch. But thinking back on Twitch's role in getting the word out about Sausage and just I don't know, like revisiting it as an idea and like something that has potential. It actually was like pretty useful, and for relatively low effort, I got a lot out of it. Like during the Kickstarter, for context, I ran this every day of the Kickstarter. There was a stream in the evening where there was AI matches of Sausage Sports Club being played that players like watching on Twitch, just like viewers on Twitch, could use the chat to bet digital currency on, which was hosted on a leaderboard that was like on my web server, so you could check the web page. You have the web page open in your thing, see what your score was, see how much like currency you had or whatever, and then bet on these AI matches on one of the teams. And you could like vote before a match. You could vote on which match you wanted to see played. So it might be like you could either watch a match where everybody has like a football helmet on, or a match with only 2 players where it's an angel versus a demon, like they have a halo versus one with like a devil horns on or something like that. So it was like kind of limited. The voting was like limited because your choice wasn't super meaningful unless there was a situation where you knew in one match one team was like way more likely to win, and so you would like always vote for that because you wanted to like earn more money. And then the match would happen, and during the match you could influence the match with the Twitch chat by typing like stun player 1 or buff player, whatever. Welcome, Jojo. Yes, you could like buff and stun characters with a chat, and you could also spawn in spikes by typing spike and then like, I think it was units, the X and Y or the X and Z, like world position or something like that. And then spikes would just spawn in that spot in the world. And it was really cool. Like, I had a lot of fun making it, but it probably took 2 or 3 weeks of just like all of the development time I had of those 2 or 3 weeks to like work on the Kickstarter stuff. So it was a big time investment on my part. And so this is the part where, when I look back, or when I was thinking about it following the Kickstarter, I was like, was this really useful? Was this like, did this actually contribute to the campaign and like get people excited about it and get people to back the game and like follow the game and stuff? And at the time I was like, this wasn't really like a useful use of my time, because anytime I would send, you know, a press release or whatever to press people or the streamers or whatever, they would like see the game, see the trailer, whatever. Maybe they would write up a blurb about it, but almost no press, maybe zero press wrote about the Twitch thing. And I think that was a big marketing failure on my part of like, this is a weird thing. It's hard to communicate what it is while also communicating the game at the same time. So I think, and also when I talked to people who were my friends in real life and like knew I was running a Kickstarter, backed the game, followed my updates, read my Twitter feed as I was like tweeting about the game and stuff, they had no idea that this Twitch thing was even happening. So I felt like this was like a huge failure on my part to communicate what I was doing and why it was cool. So that was like frustrating, kind of like felt like a failure for a long time to me. But at the end of the Kickstarter, like the last few days or whatever, I was showing the game at PAX, and at that same PAX, Twitch, the company, reached out to me and said, hey, we're doing this event at PAX on stage. It's going to be on the front page of Twitch, and we'd like your game and this like Twitch integrated thing you have going to be in this event. It'll be, you know, on the front page of Twitch for like 20 minutes or something. And I did that, and it was really cool, and tons of people saw it. Like thousands of people played the game, and it was like really exciting. And that kind of resolved it as like, okay, maybe this was worth it. I don't regret doing this. Oh, I see that my internet is struggling right now. So maybe that was worth it for the platform support that it gave me, and like that kind of single burst of you know, a Twitch audience that was kind of out of my control, but couldn't have happened if I hadn't done this thing. And although it didn't, I don't think anybody ever did this. I also offered to Twitch streamers that they could host the stream, like host the AI matches or whatever, and then I would tell all of my chat to go to their thing. I think we're good now, right? Like the internet's back up. So that's kind of like all of the stuff that happened with the Twitch thing, and coming out of it, I was like, this was mostly I forgot to mention, like during the Kickstarter, every day the average number of people in that chat were like maybe 5, and then on a really good day it was like close to 10, but it was never like 30 or 50 or something, which is what I was hoping for when I was making it. So it was, you know, it was kind of limited. And I also spent during the Kickstarter, I spent tons of time just like fixing issues with that, and like having to be in a place where I could launch the Twitch game and like set it up and make sure it was working, and just be there for the Twitch game. So it was definitely a big investment. So in retrospect, looking back on this, like that Twitch was interested in the game, that I have this kind of set of utilities and like knowledge of the Twitch API so that I can build features really fast. And now that the game is a lot bigger and has more stuff, there's kind of a lot more potential for Twitch stuff, even with this basically the same tool that I had back then. So now I've been thinking about it again as like, maybe this would be useful as a tool, not for me to do this kind of streaming AI bot matches or whatever, but to give streamers more value, like more of a reason to say yes, since I don't have online, and that's not really like a feasible feature for me to add. So the thing I've been thinking about is, if there was a streamer mode where in the settings menu, if you added, or if I added just like a field here where you could enter your Twitch username, and then the game would listen to your Twitch chat. And this wouldn't work on Switch just because I don't want to like deal with I would have to go through cert again to get the like internet connected Twitch API observing part working, and that's, you know, it's more fun if it's not on the Switch, because people, as far as I understand, people don't really stream from their Switch as much as they do not from their Switch. So anyway, there would be a menu option here that's like a streamer name. You enter that streamer name, then the game automatically listens all the time for your Twitch chat, and based on whatever they say, actions happen in the game. Like if I'm in the game and I type spawn, spawn soccer ball, it would just like spawn soccer balls in the scene for like the players to play with. And in the Kickstarter version of this, if I had done that, I would have had like 5 game objects to spawn, but now there are like maybe 30 like different toys or whatever that you can just play, and you can even turn that into an interesting like voting Twitch thing, because if you every, I don't know, 10 seconds or 30 seconds or something spawn the object with the most votes to be spawned, then that turns into like a chat competition of like, oh, I want my thing to be spawned, but there's 15 things that have more people have requested for a soccer ball to be spawned than my basketball or whatever. So you're like competing over that. And spawning spikes is like still interesting, just like it was then, but now they could be spawned anywhere in the entire overworld instead of just in an arena or whatever. Let me actually look at my list of stuff I was interested in doing with the Twitch integration. Channel name. Oh yeah, if players are just playing, then the chat gets to choose the arena, gets to choose the sport you're playing. They could constantly be changing players' hats and stuff just by typing that into chat. And there's just so much more potential now, because there's so many more like variables to tweak now that there's actually like different arenas and different sports and different all the hats are there, and the game's just way bigger now. So I've been thinking about that, and I need to find time now. I didn't really expect this like cert submission to fail. So if my resubmit doesn't fail, then hopefully I have time to like add this kind of interesting feature for the PC version. That's also more of the like next step of stuff that I'm gonna do is Steam achievements and trading cards and Steam controller support. Not really working yet. My Mac build is still probably fucked up, in that if you open the game on a Mac that's past a certain version of OS X or whatever, it just like dies. The app doesn't open. So that's coming up. Other stuff this week, I've been thinking about the future, and specifically in terms of like my game development, like what I'm gonna do next. I don't know how much I've talked about this on stream, but my goals for making games at least are like, I want to keep making stuff until it like makes enough money that I can fully like invest all of my time into making games, and then to do that as long as I'm able, and to build better and bigger and more interesting games. And the thing I'm interested in specifically is exploring new design space. And if you think of like all the games that exist and all the types of games that exist and designs and game ideas and genres and all this stuff as like a circle that exists, and you can like point to different games that exist in it. I want to make games that are on the edge of the circle, put like slightly outside of what the circle is, that expand it and like make games more, add more to what games are basically. And it's hard to do that. It's always hard to do that because the newer a thing is, or the more different it is, the less people will understand it, accept it, know that they want to give you money for it. The less platforms will see it and say, this is something our customers will want, whatever. But I think there's a way to do both things, like make experimental work and also like make it mainstream enough that people will be willing to buy it and support your work. And especially if you establish yourself or your brand or whatever as like somebody that does that and makes interesting work, then people will follow you to see what you do and that kind of thing. So that's long term, though. That's kind of like my goal and what I'm thinking about. So that's with that context, like the stuff I'm thinking about this week is having my company maybe grow a little bit, to have more people to help me make games and to help me like move towards those goals. If I can get people excited about those same goals, then it would be easier to achieve that as a group, because we'll be supporting each other. I won't have to do so much, sacrifice so much of my time and energy and everything if I have other people to help me, like specifically like business and marketing stuff. That's stuff you have to do aside from the game, and I'm happy to do it, and like to some extent I'm good at doing it, but anytime I'm doing that stuff I can't work on the game. And so if there was other people to work on the game with me, then that would, that would cost less development time for me to have to do that other stuff. So that's all stuff I've been thinking about. How the business side of how it works, like how much money has to be made, how often the projects have to come out. If a project fails, like what's the amount of money you need as a runway between projects, whatever. What's a fair structure of paying people, and like, what do you call it, stocks, like how do you distribute stocks and where does money come from and all that stuff. I've been trying to think about that, just not that I would have all the answers going in, but just to like establish where I'm at. And yeah, so that's one part of it. Also starting to think about future projects, like what kind of games would I want to make next, what kind of games fit into these goals I'm talking about. I know for sure that I want the next game to be smaller than Sausage Sports Club. Not necessarily in like how much time you spend playing it, but in like scope of it and how long it takes to make. And I guess that's most of it, like how long it takes to make. Sausage took so long because at every step of the way I was discovering what I wanted to make and letting my prototypes and feedback from players like shape what the game is, more than you have to do to make a good game. It was totally just like I was willing to go in any direction if it seemed like a good one to me. And if earlier on in the project I had more fully established what I wanted to make, and then I would have been able to finish sooner, basically. And so with a future project, if I start with a smaller scope and more fully establish like what I'm making earlier in the project, then it won't go so wildly off the rails that it takes 3 years like Sausage did. Even if it takes a year and a half instead of like 6 months or something, that's way better than taking 3 years instead of what I thought was 6 months away at every step of the project. And also thinking about just like, thanks Jojo. It feels that way, and it's not necessarily bad. Like, it's cool that I'm able to make stuff by myself, but it also limits what I can make and requires a lot of myself that it would be nice if I could put into other, into other parts of life instead of just this business. So the other part of brainstorming future projects is actually like, what are cool game ideas? Like what are things that I want to see in games that don't exist yet, that kind of thing. And looking at my notes again, one thing I've been thinking about a lot and trying to incorporate into a lot of the ideas I'm coming up with is the idea of ownership and customization of like digital things and digital spaces, like way back in the day, like Animal Crossing, and you can still do this in Animal Crossing, I guess, but like customizing a house in Animal Crossing with little trinkets and stuff that you find, earn, buy over time was really compelling and rewarding, and that my house didn't look like anybody else's house was like a really compelling idea. And I feel like not that many games emphasize that a lot. So that's something I would like to see. Whether it's in a digital space or like a character that you like really seriously customize over time, or maybe a party of characters that you seriously customize over time, something I'm interested in. That's probably the one I've been thinking about most. Anything else, any other like game idea stuff I would get into would just be like me just pitching random ideas that I haven't fully developed, or like even developed into something more than just like a one sentence pitch. So I think rather than get into that stuff, I'll just end the stream. It's weird to not open the project and be like, look at this new thing I added, because for so long, the last like year, the year every week, I could be like, I could just open the project and be like, hey, look at this new thing. And it's weird that it's done. Yeah, thanks for stopping by, Jojo. Yeah, that said, I'm gonna just end it here. This was a shorter stream, which I think is good. I would like in the future, even for my like development progress streams where I'm like showing features I'm working on, I would rather them be about this length than the like 2 hours that they always end up being. So thanks for stopping by, and as always, what's it called? Follow the channel if you want to see these, and yeah, thanks for coming by. See you next Sunday.